I would like to invite our next speaker, Oren Betzaleli, Senior Vice President and General Manager, Software Platform at HARMAN, will be talking about 1.5 tons of bits, managing the increase of software in future cars. Oren?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Oren Betzaleli. I'm the General Manager of HARMAN in Israel. And I want to talk about the software inflation and what does it mean for automotive industry, tier ones, car makers, and so on. I want to start with proving to you that there is a superinflation of software. Many people are talking about software sizes in terms of lines of code, and the common industry number now talks about around 100 million lines of code in an average car. This is today. This is before autonomous vehicles. This is before LiDARs and radars and artificial intelligence and these sort of things. This number is expected to double within the next 5 years, and even do more than that, even triple in the next 10 years or more. Just to put it in perspective, we like to use a comparison of that to some of the more complex devices that everybody knows, right? The Air Space Shuttle, the Boeing 787, very modern, super modern airplane. They have much, much less. The Space Shuttle used to have below 1 million, and the airplane have about 15 million lines of codes. But this is only one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is from the perspective of the value of software inside the car compared to the rest of the components. Today, the common numbers that the industry is talking about is about 10%. So 10% of the value of the car is coming from software. If an average car costs about $15,000, software today worth about $1,500. That's already a lot compared to all the metal and rubber and plastic that you get in the car. But this is about to triple in the next year. This is data from McKinsey that I've taken, but I think this is way underrated. I believe this will get into the 50% in very short range. So there is a superinflation. Amount of software in the car is growing dramatically, and people need to know what to do with it. Now, some of the implication of the increase of software in the car, everybody knows, right? Software brings bugs. And average, industry standard talk about 50 to 100 bugs in 5,000 lines of code. So imagine 100 lines of codes and the number of bugs you can find. Millions and millions of bugs. Now, these bugs result, of course, in the need to fix them. And in the automotive industries, the way to fix bugs is called recall. An average recall costs about $100 to the OEMs, to the car manufacturer. If you multiply that by the number of bugs and the number of recalls, the number of software-related recalls is going to go into the tens of millions a year, and the cost is going to go into the billions of dollars a year, just by sending all of those cars into the car dealership to fix them. So the implications are vast. The amount of software is growing. And obviously, everybody understands that the need. Another implication that I wanted to mention beyond the bugs is the area of production. In a standard production line, assembly line of cars, there are stations. The car is going through stations, and every station is in charge of a certain component, and there is a certain amount of time dedicated to each section. So between 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes per section. One station is in charge of doors, engine, and so on. And in modern production lines, there is a station that is in charge of software flashing. The problem is that with the increase of software, these 4 minutes, 5 minutes are no longer enough, resulting in bottlenecks. One of our customers told us about a nice term that they call reflash party. What reflash party means is that they simply stop the assembly line, take all of the people from the factory, and send each one of them with a USB stick to flash the software in the cars. Imagine stopping a production line of a major automotive car manufacturer just to do a software reflash. Why? Because it's not enough. 4 minutes is not enough. So the implications of the software increase are dramatic. Everybody knows and everybody understands that managing this software needs to change, needs to move from the manual process of updating software through USB sticks to updating it remotely via the cloud. Tesla was the pioneer. Tesla have been using software update remotely for a while. General Motors, Daimler, BMW, all of these companies have started to do software update remotely quite a number of years back. But today, there is no single company, single automotive manufacturer that don't talk about how to update software. And the question is not if that is needed, but really what does it mean? Because many people think that, what do I need to do for updating software? I just need to have a file uploaded to the cloud somewhere, an FTP server of some sort, download it to the car and install, right? That's easy. No, it's not easy. And I think the gentleman here a few minutes before me said that they would like to think of themselves as a startup of 10,000 people. Well, this is not a job for a startup. This is a serious job. This is very complicated. Everybody have a phone in their pockets, and they are used to the scenario of a phone waking up and tell you, hey, there is an update. Do you want to update? And you may say yes, and you may say no. It may take 10, 15, 20, half an hour. And it may succeed, and it may fail. And if it fails, okay, never mind. I'll do a reset, or I'll go to the nearest technician, and I'll fix it. That's easy, right? But that's not the case in an automotive industry. That's much more complex, much more risky. So there are many questions that OEMs, car manufacturers, need to think about when they come to explore the opportunity of managing software remotely. So I want to touch on those questions and show you a little bit of those considerations and ideas. I really want to explain that. Okay. So the first thing is what? What is the scope? What do I want to update? When we look at our customers and we talk to the industry about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, everybody had in mind this component, the infotainment system. And it became connected, it had a lot of software, and it was straightforward for them to say, okay, let's update it remotely because it's too complex and we don't want to do it manually, it costs too much. A little bit later, in the last 2 years, this started to evolve into additional components. The TCU, the telecommunication unit in a car, was really the second runner-up, the next candidate for updatability. Soon enough, our customers started to talk about powertrain engine, the software that runs the engine, the cluster, all of these little widgets that you have in front of the driver, the safety system. But when we talk to our customers today, and when they plan the architecture for 2020, 2022, and so on, they already talk about 50 to 100 different ECUs. Now you can imagine that is very, very different than updating your phone, right? When you have a phone, you download a file, you update, succeed, fail, that's fine. But what happens when you want to update 50 ECUs in the car, and you succeed in 49 of them, but the last one fails? For whatever reason, what happens then? Do you roll everything back? Do you even capable of doing that? Do you say, okay, never mind? Will the automotive manufacturer allow a situation of 49 ECU with version 2 and 1 with version 1? Did they even test it, this configuration? This is unacceptable to them. So the first question of what is the scope raises a lot of complexity and architectural and operational aspects. The next question I want to touch is where? Where do I want to update the car? The standard scenario that everybody think about is I bought a car, a year passed by, there is an update for whatever reason, and the car manufacturer say, hey, there is a new feature, a new bug fix or whatever. This is the home scenario. This is the most easy to understand scenario. But I talked about the assembly line earlier. And if it's no longer viable to do a car flash or software refresh in the factory in 4 minutes, then why don't the automotive industry start to manage software remotely over the air, maybe using Wi-Fi or cellular, doesn't matter, in the factory? And in that case, the factory becomes irrelevant. It doesn't matter where the car is. It can be in the factory, it can be outside in the car park, in the car lot. It can be on its way to the destination, maybe in the port, maybe even on the truck on the way to the dealer. All of those points in time can be candidate for updating the car. That changes the whole notion of supply chain of software. Today, when car manufacturers start the assembly line, they get the components from the tier 1. It already had the software on it. This component was probably manufactured a few weeks ago. The software on it was manufactured and tested a few months ago. And in software, everybody knows a few months is ages. So why don't they update the software as it comes, as it's tested, regardless of where the car is, in the assembly line, in the port, wherever. And further, many people are talking about the threat to the dealers, the risk that the dealers see coming from the phenomena of over-the-air update. And my point is, this is not a threat. This is an opportunity for the dealers. Because today, when you have a car and you want to take it to update the software, the only way for you to do is to waste half of your weekend, to go to the dealer, to spend half day on Saturday or Friday. In Israel, it's not on Saturday, of course. Okay, only for a task that takes maybe 8 minutes. Now, the alternative could be that you come to the dealer, you connect to the dealer network, you don't even leave the car. Maybe there is a technician come by and say, okay, the update succeeded, go. And that takes 5 minutes. So this is an opportunity for dealership and to improve the customer relationship, to get their customers to come to them more often and not see it as a waste of time, waste of my weekend, and so on. So this is not a threat to dealers. I think, my opinion, this is an opportunity for the dealer to improve and engage with their customers more often. The next question I want to raise, beyond the where, is when. Now, what is the problem with when? Unlike our phone that has a battery inside it, and if I go to sleep, I put it next to my bed, put it into the electricity, and it's on the time. It's connected on the time. Our cars are asleep 90% of the day. In my case, it's even more because I live very, very close by to the office, so it sleeps 99% of the day. So there is only 1% of the time that the car is on, connected, and I can work with it. I can update. I can do something. Okay? This is a big question. So OEMs are asking themselves today, how do we do it? How do we update a car that the only time frame I have is when the engine is off, and then after the engine is off, there is usually between a few seconds to a few minutes that the battery still continues to provide power to the car. So this time window of 3-4 minutes is not enough. It's definitely not enough if you need to update the entire car. And we are not yet in a situation that all of our cars are connected 100% of the time to the power supply. This is not where we are today. So what do we do? So some of our customers are thinking about ways to wake the car up, maybe in the middle of the night, to send a command from the cloud, wake the car, wake up the battery, wake up all the electric system in a way that is secured and safe, of course, and then allow for the process of updating the car software. This is becoming a little bit more sophisticated and a phenomena that didn't exist in the past. Will you feel comfortable with someone remotely waking up your car? This is something that they need to do. They have no choice. So this is another consideration of and the result of the increased amount of software in the car. What else? What do we do with this guy? What do we do with the driver? Do we ask him a question? Do we tell him that there is an update ready for him? Do you want to update? Which is the common case when you have a cell phone and when you do an update, right? There is a question and you may say yes. You may say later or tonight, or you may say, don't bother me. Is that a viable option in automotive industry? What if you have a cybersecurity hack, a cybersecurity issue that you need to fix, that the automotive industry has to fix? What then? Do you say to the customer, hey, by the way, you have a cybersecurity bug, don't worry, we just send an update and everything will be okay? This, by the way, today, this is the common practice. Today, OEMs are mandated, are required to tell the customer, the driver, that there is an update, and even to ask them if they want to update. In the future, maybe that's not the only answer. Maybe if it's a feature, a new capability, you may want to engage the driver and tell him, maybe even make it a good experience. But if it's some serious issue, maybe if it's a cybersecurity problem, maybe you don't want to tell the driver. Maybe you want to tell the driver after the fact. So the whole notion of interacting with the driver is something that OEMs needs to start and thinking about. And maybe the regulations need to start thinking about. So that's another consideration. What next? Who? And by who I mean, who is responsible for updating software? Those of you who know the industry know that the whole industry is working in a tiered supplier approach. The OEM is approaching multiple tier 1 suppliers, And they are the one who provide the components. They, in turn, have tier 2 suppliers, and they will provide the subcomponents and software components and so on. So it's a hierarchy of suppliers that is in charge of creating the car. Now, 3 years ago, all of the RFPs that came our way with regards to software updates used to come from the tier 1 suppliers of the infotainment system mainly, or maybe from the TCU suppliers. But today, when every ECU in the car is candidate for software update, it cannot come from one component supplier. Otherwise, you will have 20 different cloud systems updating the car all in the same time. So the car manufacturer need to change the philosophy and mentality of tier suppliers and understand that software management is something that needs to sit on top of all of these suppliers. It's a much more strategic platform. And then, how do we operate it? And again, I said it earlier, it's not enough just to have a file, upload it to the cloud, download it from some FTP server, install, and that's it. Car manufacturers have to have full traceability into the process. They need to know exactly which cars updated successfully and which cars did not. And those that failed, why? Was it the driver that rejected? Was it connectivity? Was it something wrong with the file itself? They need to have full monitoring capability. It's more than that. NHTSA, the authorities, the regulators in the US today, they demand it. They demand to know exactly what happened. What succeeded, what failed, why? And it's not only NHTSA, it's the car manufacturers themselves. So it becomes a real operation. And some of our customers are talking about real operation center, a place where you have people 24/7 running update campaigns, monitoring them, understanding what's happened, bringing log from the car, investigating them. It's a 24/7 operation. So I think I managed to explain that doing software, increasing amount of software in car is not an easy task. It requires a lot of preparation, a lot of consideration, and some of our customers are really engaged with us in doing that. To summarize, I just want to say a few words about what we do here, HARMAN in Israel. HARMAN acquired 3 companies in Israel. The first one was a company called Iron Road, then a company called Red Band, and then a company called TowerSec from the area of cybersecurity. We are today HARMAN Israel, and one of the areas of focus that we do is really that area of software update and remote device manager for cars. We have today already 20 design awards, 20 OEMs have signed production agreement with us to embed our technology in their cars. Already have 30 million cars in the road traveling today with our technology embedded, and nearly 300 million cars in the next 10 years or so already contracted. So we really know what we're talking about when it comes to managing software. That's it from me. You can come and visit us at booth 211 right outside. We'll be more than willing to talk to you, but whatever. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the show.